Luke chapter 9, verse 51, when the days drew near for Jesus to be taken up, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. And there it is. Now, that's the Dome of the Rock, that silhouette there representing Jerusalem. I know that wasn't there in the days of Jesus. This is just a disclaimer in case there's any pedants out there this morning. But this is a contemporary illustration. Today, the journey begins to Jerusalem and all that awaits Jesus there. And it's a big journey. Big in geographic, symbolic, personal and literary terms. Literary terms because in Luke's Gospel, this journey to Jerusalem takes up about 10 chapters. And Luke helpfully provides regular signposts through those chapters, reminders that Jesus is on the way. He is going to Jerusalem. And here are all the references where Luke gives us those helpful reminders. You can look them up later. On the way. On the way. That's where Jesus is today. There was a film in cinemas last year called The Way. Anybody see that? The Way? It's the story of Tom Avery, played by Martin Sheen, a grumpy old American ophthalmologist who receives the tragic news that his only child, Daniel, has been killed in an accident while travelling in the Pyrenees on the Spanish-French border. Tom goes from America to collect his son's body and learns that Daniel, his son, from whom he had been estranged, was walking the Camino de Santiago, an ancient pilgrimage. Is there anyone here this morning who has walked the Camino? Oh, Carlin. Coincidence? And Jay? Oh, right. Speak to them later. It's in his grief. In the movie, in his grief at the loss of his son, Tom decides to do the walk himself, a journey of many hundreds of kilometres. The Way. It's a good name for a film and a good name for a religion too. Did you know that before our faith was called Christianity, we were known as followers of the Way? We learn this from Luke in the book of Acts, and we see it symbolically demonstrated in his gospel. Beginning today, Jesus is on the way. And for those of us who would follow him, what is revealed there about the nature of that way? The Greek word Luke uses meaning way is hodos, this word. Hodos, like its English translation, has a range of meaning, from physical track to the manner of one's living. It's a word pregnant with metaphoric import. The right road and the wrong road, and all those many other ways. High, low, crooked, straight, narrow, long, open and winding, long and winding. Which is your road today, friends? Which road are you travelling on? And on your way, do you feel yourself to be following Christ on his way? Do you feel that? Christ's way through the gospel to Jerusalem is very eventful. Healings are performed, parables told, teaching is imparted, community is gathered, meals are enjoyed, disciples are called and sent, boundaries are crossed on that way, boundaries of culture, religion, race, gender. Outsiders are included, children embraced, the lost are sought and found, the wealthy confronted, the poor blessed. Conflict is encountered on that way. Enemies are made. Evil is driven away. There is rejoicing and lament on this way. There's prayer, blessing and prophecy. It's a very eventful way indeed. Those are 10 very full chapters. It's a wonderful and challenging way for Jesus and his followers. The fullness of life is manifest in it. And every step of it, every step of that way is coloured by its destination, as Tom Avery shows us in the film. Tom crosses himself by the cross on the way, nursing his broken heart under the glory of the setting sun. He repeats this action at every significant point along that journey for hundreds of kilometres. Christ's way, in all its fullness, is a way of sorrows. It is the way of the cross. Luke chapter 18, verse 31, one of those references that was up there at the beginning. There Jesus takes the 12 aside and says to them, "See, we are going up to Jerusalem, and everything that is written about the Son of Man by the prophets will be accomplished. For he will be handed over to the Gentiles, and he will be mocked and insulted and spat upon. After they have flogged him, they will kill him. And on the third day, he will rise again." The way of the cross. At the time it came out, I heard people say that this film was not particularly religious, despite being about a sacred pilgrimage. And it's true that I have just shown you one of the only explicitly religious scenes in the whole thing. But let's note that one of the primary metaphors for God in the Christian tradition is the parent who suffers the death of an only child, but who, through love, transforms that suffering and loss into a way of healing and renewal for all who would follow him, and ultimately for the whole of creation. So in that sense, this film is implicitly grounded in the way of Christ. I was thinking about the different kinds of significant journeys that people take in life. I've talked about pilgrimage. Then I thought of the desperate and dangerous journeys of asylum seekers across the world. We've been reflecting on those over the past few weeks. I thought also of certain rites of passage. Tomorrow, Beth and I farewell Alex as he heads off, our son, as he heads off to be a backpacker in Europe for the rest of the year, his gap year journey. And then what about all those grey nomads with their caravans doing a similar thing in more comfort at the other end of life? Is that a rite of passage too? Another kind of journey is migration. I'm a migrant from New Zealand, one of the easier places to come from, and I know there are other migrants here this morning as well. I was a child when my family made that journey, and I found it, even though New Zealand is an easy place to come from, I found it deeply traumatic. It was life-changing, culture-confusing. What have been the significant journeys of your life? Thinking about migration led me to reflect on the extraordinary non-human migratory journeys made on this amazing earth. Recently I read a novel called Flight Behaviour by Barbara Kingsolver, from which I learnt about the astonishing migratory behaviour of monarch butterflies in North America. Every year, these butterflies fly from as far north as Canada to as far south as Mexico and back again. But the thing that boggles my mind, and which scientists are still to satisfactorily explain, is that no single butterfly makes the whole of this incredible journey. It takes much longer than the lifespan of an individual. The journey crosses generations, and each butterfly only travels part of it. So, how do they know the way? Every year they return to the same places, the same trees even, in Canada and in Mexico, and they stop and breed at the same places in the USA in between. Amazing. Mysterious. Is the way of Christ like that? His journey, his way, lived in the lives of so many, but none of us traversing the whole distance alone. Like the exodus of the Israelites out of Egypt, remember, it was the children born along the way in the wilderness who got to enter the promised land. In the same way, we are a pilgrim people, says our basis of union, always on the way towards our promised goal. Could it be that the true journey of life and faith is not complete in any one of us? Martin Luther King Jr. knew this truth intimately. Hear again his powerful prophetic words from the evening of the 3rd of April, 1968.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Wow, what words. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land, he says presciently, for of course that was the night before he was assassinated. Listen now to Barack Obama on the night after his first election victory. Hear the echo of Martin Luther King in these historically charged words.
The road ahead will be long. Our climb will be steep. We may not get there in 1 year or even in one term. But America, I have never been more hopeful than I am tonight that we will get there. I promise you, we as a people will get there.
Friends, justice is the journey of generations. Justice is the journey of generations, and it is not a way we can travel alone. Tom Avery also discovers this truth in The Way. He comes to have his pilgrim's passport stamped at the end of the road and to receive his Compostela, the certificate of completion. When asked what name he wants put on the certificate, he says Daniel Avery. In the end, Tom realises he made this journey, he walked this way, not primarily for his own reward or his own healing, but for his Son, who could not complete the journey himself. Tom did it for the love of his child. In the same way, God makes the journey of life through Christ along the way of the cross for us, out of love for the world. And, friends, that journey continues here. Amen.